New Zealand's health tech industry is gaining critical mass, with 22 emerging health tech companies on the annual TIN 200 ranking, with combined revenues of $2.9 billion. NBR's senior journalist Fiona Rotherham has written a 3-part series on the sector, looking at what's driving that growth. Fiona, what's changed in the health tech sector recently?
Well, globally, there's been a big trend to see an increase in health tech. Partly that was driven by the COVID pandemic, needing remote technology to help people deal with the pandemic. But it's been a trend that's happening anyway, and you've got baby boomers who are coming up to needing more intensive care, and they've got the money to try and pay for innovation that will make their lives better to live or solve their health problems. You've also got developing companies moving up that development curve as well. So there's a lot of drivers for it. What you've seen in 2021, there was record investment globally into this sector. So all this money poured in. It's tapered off a little bit this year as people have got a little bit more wary, but there's still investors willing to back this sector, and that's driving a lot of the growth.
And how does New Zealand stack up in this sector compared to countries around the world?
Well, we've got some. I mean, it's a competitive market, and there's good technology elsewhere as well. But some of the things really working here is we've got fantastic researchers and fantastic research. We're getting an ecosystem that's well connected, and there's a lot of connection between the universities and bringing that research out of the universities and commercialising it now. We've got a bit of a critical mass happening. It used to be just Fisher and Paykel healthcare. It was a sort of the lone wolf for a long time, and that's still a big chunk of the revenues being made. But you've got Orion Health as well, which is sort of a big player in the digital health space, and of course Douglas Pharmaceuticals in the pharma side of health tech. But what's happened is we've now got 22 emerging companies on the TIN 200 in this space. So that those companies have taken 10, 20 years to grow up, and they're doing really well. But even better, we've just got this really big pipeline of startups. So compared to 10 years ago, there were 108 health tech companies. Now there's 257. And you've got clinicians starting companies. You've got universities spinning them out. You've got second-time entrepreneurs. And, it's just really building that critical mass.
How are these companies attracting talent to New Zealand?
Well, I think, New Zealand's a great place to live. It is, quite hard to match the salaries of other places, but I think there's, we've got good credibility here in terms of our research and in terms of doing, patient trials, that type of thing. So I think people are attracted to companies that are doing well. If you've got a successful industry, people want to come and work for that. And I spoke to Alimetry, which is a new startup doing really well in terms of a medical device for gastric problems. They, attracted over 16 million in their Series A, and then they got this string of people wanting to come and work for them. So it has that sort of glow effect, if you like.
Now, what role does Te Whatu Ora Health New Zealand, so that was the formation from 20 district health boards into one, what role does that play in the sector?
Well, it's got a big role because these companies want to export. They can't rely on the domestic market, but they really want to use New Zealand as a launch pad for their technology. And the Productivity Commission did a 2021 report on frontier firms, and they used health tech as a case study. And what they found was that it had been really difficult for many companies dealing with these the district health boards. Some were really good, but in general, there was no incentive for these district health boards to connect with these companies. They were looking at containing costs rather than what innovation they could bring in that would drive efficiency. And the recommendation from that report was really that this major health reform should see a new mandate for these district health boards to get involved in innovation. It'll benefit them and the way they run, but it'll benefit these companies wanting to export. So they need to gain some credibility by saying they're selling it in their own backyard and using it in their own backyard before they go overseas. They can still make it without, but it's so much easier if they do that. Now, I interviewed John Herries, who's the group manager for Te Whatu Ora in the emerging tech and health tech innovation, and he's working on a sort of pathway or an operating model that can get some of those pathways happening. So he hopes to have that finished by the end of the year. So his thoughts on this, on what they're looking at and how they're going to go about it, are really quite interesting.
And how's the investment community actually backing these companies? Because it's traditionally been a hard sector to fund.
Well, that's right. These companies are higher risk. they require much more capital, and they take longer to grow because there's regulatory approvals that are needed and you've got to do clinical trials, that type of thing. But we've got some generalist investors like Icehouse Ventures, that sort of thing, coming in. Movac have put some money into certain companies, so they are coming in now, but they're still wary about the risk returns. And there's a bit of a gap, I'm told, between the very early seed money and the Series A, when they're sort of at the stage where they're about to sort of, they've proven the product and they're about to, really ramp up that export growth. So it's just that middle bit where they're trying to lift their valuations, and there's a bit of a gap there. But also a lot of people are looking for a specialist medtech fund. Caramed Capital went out to market early last year looking to raise $50 million. They wanted to be the first sort of specialist deep health tech fund in New Zealand. They had market volatility saw them hit pause on that. They're back in the market now trying to raise money. They've got about 20 mil at this stage, and they're doing a November 30 close where they're hoping to have 30 mil. So it'd really be really good to see some specialist funds like that enter the market. And the main thing is not just the capital. It's they've been, a lot of them have been on this journey themselves. They can provide some of that experience of that pathway of getting to market and those regulatory hurdles and that type of thing. So I think there's definitely returns there to be made, but it's needing people to help them on their way.
What about offshore investors?
Yeah, definitely. There's been some interest from offshore investors as well. Exsurgo, which is a company that's made a device, a headset that people wear to manage chronic pain. They've only raised money from offshore. It's Richard Little is the CEO there. He was involved in Rex Bionics, so this is his second venture. He just went offshore to raise the money because he said that the valuations are better from offshore. And what he talks about is patient capital, because these companies require people who are willing to really sit there and wait for these returns to come. And in his view, you get a better deal offshore. But not everyone can do that if you're just starting out.
Fiona, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.